Riana, welcome to Podcastina.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to jump in with a tough question right off the bat. Why why do you think we end up in toxic relationships?
It's definitely related to your childhood trauma experiences. All the research points to that. So that is the reason. Even though most people don't think they have childhood trauma, it has proven in research in 2021 that 100% of us have at least some of the top 10 that I mentioned.
Oh, I would love to get into the list of the top 10. What is it?
Okay, well, actually, there's more than 10. And before I go into the list, I want to preface it with childhood trauma goes through at least three generations. And so if you notice some of these events on your list, don't worry, your parents had trauma and so did their grandparents. So it goes through the generations. And it's not about blaming your parents at this stage of your life or feeling ashamed that you have them, because we all have something. The important thing is to identify it as a fact, like, yeah, that did happen, and then see how it relates to any struggles you're having as an adult in life, love, or business. So the top 10 are the top 10, but there are more than this. But these were the ones that on my childhood trauma checklist assessment that were the common through my experiences of 25 years as a therapist. I found with my clients of all ages, background, races, cultures, singles, couples, straight, LGBTQ. It didn't matter the name. Childhood trauma has no prejudice. So these were the top 10 that came up. So as I do this, Galina, maybe you want to write down any that you might have had.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got my notebook handy.
Okay, so here we go. The first one is if you had any addiction in the family. So drugs, alcohol, sex, meaning you knew your parent was a cheater, porn use, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, gaming, TV watching, workaholism, and social media or computer addiction. So those are the 12 that I named. Okay, number two is verbal messaging. So, what did you hear growing up? Did you watch your parents yell and scream a lot when there was an issue they were dealing with? Did they yell a lot at you? Did you hear the words, I love you and I'm proud of you? Or instead, did you hear like verbal put downs, like change your clothes, you look fat in that? Or why should I save money for college? You'll never qualified to get into a 4 year school. Things like that are called verbal put downs. Okay, so those are the verbal messages. What did you hear growing up? And that was an interesting one because when I was on the beach with about nine of my friends, I was telling them the top 10 traumas and hit that one. And we were all the baby boomer generation. And none of us had heard from our parents the words, I love you,
Oof,
which is
not that
really
generation.
bizarre. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it can be cultural, it can be generational, why you've gone through these things. Ours was generational. The third one is emotional abuse or neglect. The fourth one is fault or no fault abandonment. So that means a fault abandonment would be if a parent left you, they never visit you, or they could even be in the home, but they really pay attention to you or they don't go to your school activities. A no fault abandonment would be a parent that maybe died early or had to deploy for war or traveled a lot due to work. That is a form of abandonment, but it's no fault because that's how they supported their family. But very often the kids build a resentment anyway. Number five would be any physical abuse, rape, or molestation. And again, these aren't only events that happen inside of the home, they could happen in the community, by a coach, by a friend. A date rape is obviously still a rape. You knew the person, but it's still, considered a trauma. The next one would be number six if you were adopted, part of foster care, or had to go live in another home, your family couldn't take care of you. So even if it was your aunt's or your grandma's home, that's still being displaced. Number seven is personal trauma. So this is any way you felt different or not good enough. Maybe you were a chubby child going to school and you were bullied for that, or skinny and smart and called a nerd, or diagnosed with ADHD and teased for that. You could have been an African American student in an all Caucasian school or coming out gay or lesbian and being teased by your peers or rejected by your families. So there's all kinds of issues under personal trauma that would apply. Number 8 is sibling trauma. This can relate to if your sibling bullied you, if they were born with a medical issue, so that commanded more of mom's and dad's time away from you, or you perceive them as being the golden child or the favored one, the star athlete, more handsome, more beautiful, getting more of mom's and dad's attention for some reason, and you felt neglected. Okay, trauma 9 actually has two traumas in it. Trauma 11 had to be moved down. When I did this list in 2011 and 2012, community trauma was not very prevalent. And that was number 11. And today it's one of the most common. So, what falls under community trauma is our COVID pandemic that went globally and affected all people all over the world. Our community traumas of floods, fires, hurricanes that wipe out communities at large, something like that. And then, of course, war. If your country's at war, that is a huge community trauma. And then that impacts the family. So, family trauma is part of 9 too, just separate. And family trauma could be growing up in a dangerous neighborhood or moving a lot because you were a military family and you were always a new kid in school, or struggling economically and always worried about, will we have food, do we have heat for the winter time, these kinds of things. Could be if your parent was incarcerated, or a family member. So these are all kinds of things that kids go through. And then trauma 10 is mental health issues in mom or dad. Now, the baby boomers, we didn't see our parents go to counseling. So we kind of have to guess if our parents had anything wrong in a mental health way. So, did you see signs of anxiety or depression? Some of the two most difficult to navigate is bipolar, which is manic depressive. And people think a manic phase is high and happy. Well, it could be, but it's usually always followed by a deep depression. So, let's say mom goes out on a spending spree and spends 3,000 on purses and shoes. Then the bills come 30 days later, and she's depressed for 4 months because she can't pay it off. Okay, so that's that. And the other one is borderline personality. And I describe that as when you're good, you're great, but when you're bad, you're horrid, and you never know what you're going to get. So this leaves a kid very anxious, like opening the door from school. Is mom going to be in a good mood today, or is she going to scream at me today? And kind of that walking on eggshells feeling as a child. So those are the top 10 childhood traumas.
Hearing that list, I can't fathom that anyone has grown up without at least some not just one, but like a combination. Because
Most
I,
people have like
yeah,
4 to 6.
that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense. I was writing down mine, and it was 2, 7, 9, and 10 were
So
definitely the
verbal,
most prevalent.
personal, family issues, and then
Hmm.
mental health issues in mom or dad. Yeah, that's hard. And then that impacts us in life, love, and business as you get older as an adult if these traumas aren't healed. So it's very important that you want to understand them, because you can't change what you don't know or understand. So that's why, like, our success rate in marriage is 50%. And people are like, why do I keep choosing narcissists or bad partners for myself? Well, because your childhood trauma stuff has not been healed. But most people don't even know they're walking around with all these wounds, and they keep taking them into the relationships, even though it's a different person, the same results are happening. Or they keep choosing the wrong type of partner over and over again, which we call RRS, relationship repetition syndrome. So that can show up two ways: you breaking up and getting back together over and over with the same person. And the research shows that happens an average of 7 times before
Oof.
the healthier person said, that's it, I'm done. But they're always hoping for change and hoping it will get better. And then the other one is breaking up with someone, and like they might do a bunch of studying of self-help books and say, okay, I've got it now, I know who I'm choosing now. And then they end up with the exact same type of partner over and over again. I usually get them by partner 3. It's like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I can't stand it anymore. Help me get rid of this, like my broken picker, right? I just am not picking the right types of people. So, we do a lot of in depth work by first healing the childhood trauma wounds and then recognizing what is the patterns that you're carrying in adult, breaking them completely, and getting the subconscious conscious, and then making full conscious awareness decisions so that you don't keep ending up in this relationship heartache and pain. Yeah.
Would you say that if are we getting, like, let's say, re-traumatized as adults, like, let's say you had abuse in the home, you had verbal abuse, you had put downs, you're not good enough, that type of belief system is getting integrated. When you're hearing that reflected back to you as an adult, maybe it's from a romantic partner or it's from a boss, is that just kind of a trigger to the old trauma, or is that
Yes,
new trauma?
very much so. You're being re triggered again from the original pain, hurt, fear, lack of safety that you had as a child. That's why it feels, people get highly anxious. And they're like, why would I pick a partner like my toxic dad, that was yelling and screaming at me? I wouldn't have wanted that kind of partner. Well, that is called falling in love by chemistry. So sadly, we grew up, especially in America, reading romantic books, watching romantic movies. Oh, if there's sparks flying, this is how we fall in love. Well, instead, the brain wants it what it knows, right? The hippocampus goes for what it knows, which is not good. That's chemistry, and the phenylalanine starts buzzing around, and you're not making a more conscious and wiser decision of, is this person really good for me versus is he hot? Because we don't care if he's hot, if he's toxic, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can fall out of love really quick if you end up with a toxic partner. So you have to go for a deeper quality, and you really need to know what I call the art and psychology of dating successfully.
What
That's
are the
important.
tells that you're in a toxic relationship?
How can you tell?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a free ebook on my website that you could get for that. There's like 40 things mentioned. I do have on my website too the red flag checklist. So I will mention some things from this checklist. Do you want to rescue or help them because you see their potential? Well, you never fall in love with someone potential. Fall in love with who they are at that moment. Okay, here's another one. I love the way they look or their status, and it builds my own self esteem to be with them. Well, you don't want someone to carry your self esteem. You want to come confident with your own self esteem, self love in place. Your life is together, and find someone equally the same, right? Someone's confident, has a good life. I always say, I'm a homeowner. Why would I date someone who's not a homeowner? You know what I mean? Why would I date down? So you don't date down, you date your equal or one step better if you're female and so forth. We have some things in common, so we're avoiding looking at the glaring differences. Well, those differences could really wreak havoc if, let's say, one does not smoke pot, the other's a pot smoker, and they're like, well, it's just occasionally. But as they're together, it's every day. Well, this is going to really be a problem, right? I always say, look for an addiction. If there's an addiction, walk away. You don't want to have to be the person trying to get them to stop whatever their addiction is. I'm focusing on one important quality, which could be money, saving me, sex, fun, or humor, or their looks, and ignoring my unmet needs. And a lot of people, that's what we call settling. They
Mm-hmm.
know subconsciously there's a lot of things wrong, but they're focusing on the wrong things. Now, those are just a few introductory things. Some of the top danger signs reacts to frustration with anger, rage, and blame. They always blame you. They can't be responsible enough to say, I'm sorry or admit when they're wrong. They always have to be right. They blame others for their life situation or circumstances without taking action or responsibility. They're immature, impulsive, or irresponsible. Now, impulse usually comes from high childhood trauma, and that is where the cheaters fall in line in high impulse. Well, they'll say rational to themselves, well, my girlfriend didn't want to have sex with me today, and this waitress is cute and she's coming on to me. I'll sex with her. High impulse because I want to. Not thinking of the consequences or how will this hurt my partner and can this ruin my relationship. They don't go that deep. They just want what they want. And that's normally right where we go into the narcissistic personality part, where they just want what they want. They're very controlling, emotionally distant or avoid, meaning they just don't get into deep conversations with you. They're still pining over somebody else, a prior relationship. They're still in touch with them. They're still texting them, and they're like, that's no big deal. Well, it is. It is
Mhm.
a big deal because when I get couples in my office, I'm like, would you like it if she did it? Well, no, but we're different. No, you're not different. It's an ex girlfriend, period. Get rid of her. Right. So you can't carry that along unless you all do become friends and they're part of your friend group. Okay. Married or engaged to someone else, getting divorced, do not date them. Do not date
Mm.
them unless they're totally single. So these are just some of the rules. There's like 40 different rules and things to watch out for. Those are just a few of them. Lacking integrity with people, lying about money or situations to get themselves out of a bad situation. So there's a lot of them, but you better know what they are. And again, my website's rianamilne.com. You can get that red flag checklist under quizzes for free. But if you're in a relationship, you want to know, is there any toxic behaviors going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think those who have one of these personality disorders, let's take narcissism as an example, do they intentionally prey on the unhealed?
Well, keep in mind that 90% of people don't realize what childhood trauma is. So most people are unhealed, but they will tend to go after people who are super kind, religious or spiritual. So that means they're forgiving. They feel people can change. So teachers, nurses, counselors, the helping people professions, right? So anyone that's kind, super kind like that, and the wealthy, because a sociopath, I my definition is someone that uses another for pleasure, profit, or lifestyle advancement. So very often you'll have this successful woman and this charming guy that owns barely anything, but will be the perfect boyfriend just to rope her in. This is a classic example of the documentary Dirty John.
Yes.
Remember?
I
Did you see
love
it?
that. It's
Yeah,
such a great example of what can
it
happen.
was a great example. I mean, for those that didn't see it, you should see it. It's on Netflix, I believe, still. But it's, this woman was a pretty architect, religious, nice mother, hardworking, successful. And this charming guy comes along and just researched her and found out she has a nice home and a nice life and good lifestyle. And he wanted to be a part of it. So, he did everything to be the perfect guy. And these toxic people can pretty much hold it together for about 90 days.
Mm.
And if you live together, God forbid it, you get married. You don't want to get married real fast. And that's one sign also he was a sociopath. He wanted to marry her right away. Starts isolating you from friends and family. Doesn't want to go out with them anymore. Finds something wrong with every one of them, which he did in this
Mm.
story, and isolated her from the daughters and the family the best that he could, and whisked her away to this romantic life. So she fell in love with him. But then that 90-day rule, after 90 days, things started to crop up. But then they got married and lived together, and then it became very evident. By then, she didn't have a prenup, and he even went after her daughter to kill her. So the sociopath is, um, one step lower than the psychopath. The psychopath is a sociopath who kills. So of course neither are good, and sociopaths live amongst us. They are, again, someone that uses another. I can't tell you how many couples, a lot of in Florida, wealthy men who get roped in by young, sexy foreign women. And as soon as they're married, they are out cheating on them, they're sociopathic, and they use them, and they're pretty expert at it. So it's a shame to see it, but you got to be aware, both men and women are taken advantage of today.
That's so true. It can really happen to anyone, and it only takes like a few of those sociopathic people to just run through and damage so many lives. Like one person can ruin a dozen lives.
That's so true. Absolutely.
Is there a specific kind of trauma that maybe ranks higher than the others that you would suggest someone address first?
Well, when I do the childhood trauma checklist with someone, go through them, we dive deeper with questions and their stories about how that showed up. Then I rank it from 1 to 10. So if someone said they had physical abuse, there could be like a guy that would say, Rihanna, I didn't know what my dad was going to do every time I get home from school. If he was drunk, I knew I was getting beat that day. So it's almost an everyday occurrence. That is a 10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Someone said, I was a pretty good kid, but occasionally I get beaten for just something stupid I did that upset my dad. And this one lady I have in mind, when I asked her if she had physical abuse, she said no. And then later she told me this story, and I'm like, well, how did your dad punish you? And she goes, I had to get a tree branch, called a switch, and bring that in for him to hit me with. I said, but you said you didn't have physical abuse. She goes, oh, well, that happened to every kid in my neighborhood.
Oh no.
So, she was an African American woman. That was her cultural norm. It was so normal for her, she didn't even see it as physical abuse. Now, I worked in schools as a counselor from kindergarten all the way through college. Every grade, I've been a student assistance counselor or a school psychologist. And if someone reported that to me, I would have to call Division of Youth and Family Services. That falls under physical abuse, no ifs, and buts. But so many people normalize that, and even as kids, because that's one of the coping mechanisms to still want to love your mom and dad. Like we almost talk ourselves into it. Well, they just had a bad day, or daddy just drinks because his job is hard. They want to make these excuses so they still can stay connected and loved by their parent. Yeah.
What is it that you wish people understood about trauma that you think the average person doesn't really know?
That 100% of us have something, and you
Mm.
got to figure out what it is. Let's go over how some of these traumas show up, because
Please.
then they might recognize too
Hmm.
how this is happening. So, if you're with a partner and they tend to be very jealous or controlling, that's signs of number two, the verbal messaging that they're not good enough, and trauma seven, that they were bullied or put down. Maybe, a man that had a crush on a girl kept rejecting him and made him feel small, and, called him fat or ugly or whatever. That is a guy that may be jealous and controlling, thinking, oh, this girl's too good to be true. I'm going to hold on to her super tight, and because I don't want anyone to steal her from me, right? That's the subconscious mind of I'm not good enough. Another one, again, is impulse. Like I said, that tends to be the cheater. A lot of women tend to be people pleasing. So that's that pleasing the difficult. Let's say the mother's alcoholic. She wakes up and the woman's in a crabby mood. So the older sister takes care of the siblings, packs the lunch, gets the kids dressed and out to the bus. So all of them aren't being yelled at that morning, and she'll just hear a thanks, hun, as the mom's like crashed on the couch. So it's like, at least she didn't yell at me today. And that was love. So I had a woman, that's her story, come in with her husband. And she goes, I do everything for my husband and my kids. I always show them how much I love them, and they never do anything for me. And the husband says, well, and I never asked you to do those things. So she was overdoing and over pleasing to get some kind of crumbs of love, because that was her pattern as a kid. Right. And so I had to rework boundaries and communication with that couple and start everything all over and heal her trauma. If someone has abandonment issues, they could be clingy or have anxiety when the partner is gone, imagining these dark thoughts like they're cheating on them, which we call false negative assumptions, assuming something to be true when it's not. That happens a lot. Perfectionism, blaming behavior, always blaming your partner, never stepping up to say I'm sorry or recognize your fault. That's one that's, again, if you didn't feel good enough as a kid, you don't want to be wrong as an adult. So it's really a character weakness if someone can't say, I'm sorry, or, they bump someone. It's like, damn, dude, you got in my way. It's like, no, you bumped him, say, I'm sorry. These kinds of things are very toxic. Of course, addiction. If addiction starts young, the brain chemistry is changing if you're starting to drink or smoke pot by age 13, 14, and 15, you know. So a lot of cheap trauma, always getting into fights over stupid things for what? To prove you're right about something. It's very toxic. Imposter syndrome, like our actresses and actors, they felt I shouldn't have this kind of fame. I'm not that worthy. I'm not that good. Or singers, so there's a lot of ways this can show up. Um, One of our top politicians, not really much anymore. It's really been changed, but used to have a lot of what I call blurting out,
Mm,
speaking before thinking about what you're saying, and people go, what did he say? The shock of, not thinking. And that is all subconscious defense mechanisms coming out. So our people learn this full conscious awareness that you think before you do, say, act, text, write anything. And there's 5 things that they run through their mind before they make that conscious decision of a yes or no. And if in doubt, they go without doing it and they give it more thought. So we're changing all those impulsive patterns.
can one of these toxic partners be saved or changed? Or if you recognize you're in one of
Yeah.
these relationships, should you just get out the door ASAP?
Yeah, I've been saving the people from their childhood trauma patterns for 25 years, almost 26 now in August. But yes, they have to dedicate to the change. And usually that happens when their partner is leaving. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't take this anymore. I'm tired of the drama. I'm tired of you blaming me, or I always have to be the wrong one. You're always right. They're just tired of the stupid drama and they want out, you know. And deep down, they really love their partner and they know something's wrong. They know, like, I'm not right. I know something's wrong with me, and they can't really put their finger on it. Or it's like, I'll try to be nicer, and they're trying to figure out how to do that. So it is an intensive program. I wrote my curriculum and the notebook's 150 pages that they go through with me, which we call bibliotherapy. They're reading, writing, giving me that from where they answered. I know what to teach them back. So coaching is working as a team for the goals and their dreams of their future. So we have to first heal the past and close the door on it, bring them up to the conscious now. Choose now your decisions that will create the future that you want. And we are always working on creating the life you desire and them having the love they deserve. So if they're singles, they have to learn, the art and psychology of dating successfully, who to look for and why, and stop all those chemistry chosen partners that don't serve them and fall in love differently. So we work through all the trauma stuff work first and get them up to feeling like amazing about themselves before dating. They're not looking for anyone to rescue them. They are the whole package. So when they go out with that attitude, I feel great about myself. I just want a partner, but he's got to be a certain, or she's got to be a certain way that, I'm not going to settle, period. Um, and then if it's a couple, I have to heal partner A traumas, partner B's traumas, and the relationship trauma. So 3 entities I'm working on. So I do individual work and then couples work. But we are definitely, like, one of the first lessons I teach is communication skills, because so many communication skills are not present in a
Right.
couple's life. They never learn them, not watching their parents or their families or learning it at school. So, really important that they learn the art of communication to work through an issue. And nobody should ever be screamed at, unless they're in harm's way. Like, watch out, the bus is going to hit you. Then, yes. But other than that, no. So, you have to learn to talk through an issue with empowered communication. Be able to say what you feel and what you think without getting upset about it.
As a single person, what are the green flags we should look for in like the first handful of dates?
An emotionally healthy partner. Okay. So most people are today are dating through apps, and that's okay. If you have an offer like through a friend, oh, I have the perfect person for you, just say, you know what, I'll meet them as a friend. That's it. You're not under no obligation to try and make it work. If anything, you made a new friend, it's not a big deal. But let's say you're dating on dating apps. You definitely have to write the right script. I write all my people's whatever you call it, the script, the
The
profile.
bio,
I
yeah.
write that and I choose their pictures and I guide them what to wear in their pictures.
Mm.
Some women are coming off too sexy, some are too conservative, some are not doing their hair and makeup. I mean, it's a big competition. It's a competitive world, but the world is abundant. So you got to look your best. And, there's a way to write a great profile and a way to butcher it. So I do that with them. And then I go over with them who they're dating, why they like them, what are their qualities, what are the red flags that they're seeing. So by date 2 or 3, we have 24 questions that should be asked in a very casual way, that you should be able to tell by date 2 or 3 whether to move forward or not. If you move forward from date 3 on, you should do a background check. No questions asked.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of scam artists out there today. A lot of people telling you what you want to hear. And again, the sociopaths are really good at it. So you need to do a good, viable background check. And then if everything checks out, you just move forward.
What are some
Hmm.
of the questions on that list?
Yeah, here's a common one. So tell me about your mom and dad. Now, if you're in the baby booming generation, are they still living? I'll give you an example of how my lady client, my coaching client, knew not to date this guy anymore. So she goes, this was a first date. She goes, so Rihanna, at first he was good looking. He pulled out my chair. He ordered me a drink. Yes, if I wanted anything to eat. After 10 minutes, we decided to split in appetizers because she knows you don't order a dinner on the first date. Um, and the conversation went great. And she goes, I started asking my questions. So, is your mom and dad still living? Are they in Florida? He goes, no, unfortunately, my dad died. Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, we had some tough years. He was an alcoholic for the first 13 years of my life. So right away, it's like, okay. She goes, but he was able to stop. She goes, yeah, he was. And he really made amends to me. Like we went camping and fishing a lot. And he was a good guy. She goes, oh, well, that's great that he could heal that. You see how this is just conversational?
Hmm.
Okay. And how about your mom? And he goes, well, she was an alcoholic too, and she never stopped. And right now she's in an old age facility. I got to take care of her. I'm the only one paying the bills. She's nasty, and we never got along. So in my book, one of the 19 personality types that can break your heart is what I call a mother hater. So
Mm.
the way he described his mother was nasty and cutting. And she knew that was a huge red flag because she read the book. It's part of my curriculum, right? So she told me this afterwards because I asked, how was your date? She goes, so it ended up fine, but I gave it some thought and I thought, I'm not going to push forward from this. There's just a couple of things that I felt uncomfortable and I'm not going to move forward. So he called her the next day. Oh, I really enjoyed myself. Yes, it was really nice to meet you too. But I don't think we're quite a match. He goes, well, what do you mean? What did I do wrong? So he got very defensive,
Mm.
very loud. I was a perfect gentleman. So he just like nasty. And she knew. And she goes, I'm sorry. I don't talk to people who yell at me. I want to wish you a good life, and hung up on him. And that was it, and blocked the number. So you can decide that quickly if you know what to look for. You're looking for what's good and you're looking for what's bad.
I've
And
also
the
heard,
questions are the guideline to
yeah,
bring up the deeper information, right? So, but that's not like an interview, it's like a conversation. But over 2 dates, you should have enough information. If things are going well, have the third date, and if nothing comes up, that's great. Keep dating. Don't get intimately a lot involved quickly. That's a huge no. But there's a lot of dating rules and just 400 pages to explain them to you in the book. But what is the emotionally healthy relationship? I can go into that if you want, Galina, real quick. This
Yeah.
is actually on page 294 of the Love Beyond Your Dreams book. Some of these things is called the 5 F's for a healthy found relationship. So the first one is a solid foundation, meaning you have the ability to trust and be trusted. You have confidence in who you are as a person before going out to date. They are also confident people that have their life together, and you share the same moral values. Okay, that's foundation. Number two is flexibility. You both are open minded, caring, easygoing, understanding, and emotionally open. You allow them to have their own opinions. They can vote for the president they want. They can choose to be vaxxed or not vaxxed. That's their choice, their body. You're not there to try to convince them otherwise. Okay, fidelity, meaning that you're honest, loyal, and integrity. Those three are really important. You can't have a relationship without them. If someone's lying to you all the time or cheats on you, or integrity, I describe as doing the right things when nobody's looking. So if there's a lack of integrity, the relationship's not going to last. The next F is under friendship. You respect each other. You can rely on each other. There's kindness. You're a best friend. Really, your partner should be your buddy and your best friend. You're having a lot of fun together, a lot of laughter, and it's someone you can turn to if you're upset or troubled. So, a good buddy. Next F is fun. You got to have fun with your partner. Do you have to share enough activities that you really have a good time? There's work time and there's play time. Do they have balance with that? So, you have these shared activities that you enjoy. Another one is intimacy, and that's a balance of love and deep friendship. Daily affection could just be a hug and kiss hello and holding hands if you're watching TV. It doesn't have to be sexual passion every day. That's just not realistic. That's chemistry that's going to die out. So these other things need to be there. Compromise. You can negotiate through your differences, even if you don't agree. It's like, that's okay, hon. I don't agree with you on this one. And it ends there. There's no yelling, screaming, convincing. And you're both are able to apologize quickly and forgive easily. Very important. Nobody's imposing blame on the other. There's balanced individuals. Both partners enjoy healthy self esteem and have good boundaries in life, work. They have purpose in their work, so they're not coming home from work miserable every day. There's nothing worse than someone complaining after working 8 hours, coming home over dinner. It's all complaints, and
Hmm.
it's like, it just is not for a very fun relationship. So you like your work. And then spirituality, believe it or not, is one of the top qualities that a couple should have to make it together throughout time, to sustain that relationship over time. So that's not religion and that you have to go to church, 4 o'clock on Sunday, every Sunday. It's more the spirituality of who you are 24/7. Are you a good person? Do you show kindness and love to others? The makings of a good spiritual individual. So if both partners are that is one of the top things that's important. So that's one page of 400. You're getting a lot of information in that book.
That's amazing. That all makes sense. I wanted to ask you, I mean, I intuitively know, but I want to hear your explanation for why we should refrain from intimacy early in the relationship.
Okay, well, you really want to know who these people are. You're not going to learn who they are on date one, two, or three. Why get naked and be sexual with someone you don't even know?
Hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of people use sex, women especially, to get love. And they're like, well, if I'm sexy with him, he'll love me. Well, no, he'll take the sex and say, thank you very much, and move on because he's lost respect for you.
Right.
Men fall in love over time. They might think, wow, she's gorgeous, but let them get to know who you are over time. Um, why sleep around? It's the worst thing you could do. And I have a lot of young people that come to me, and that's their habit: date one, two, or three. They're sleeping with the guy they're dating, and That's a sex foundation. That is not a foundation like I just described. Anyone can have sex, that's easy. But can you have the emotionally healthy relationship that you really want? And then I hear later from the men, well, I don't really trust her because she slept with me on date one. So now he
Mm,
resents her for it. So he doesn't trust her. He's jealous. He's controlling because he thinks, wow, she got intimate that fast. She could be out there doing that with anybody. So there's so many wrong reasons why it's wrong. And if you do have self love and respect, you're just not doing that. You're waiting till you're in an exclusive relationship. So, how long does that take? Usually 8 to 12 dates.
mm,
Now, a date can be 2 dates in one day. Let's say you meet for lunch. That went great. It's like, hey, let's go down to rent a boat and go boating for the day. And then you go boating, then you go for dinner. Well, that's 2 dates, right? You're spending a lot of quality time with somebody. So it's the amount of time and the information you're getting, being confident that you're safe with this person. That's the background check. Making sure your headspace is in the same direction. He wants an exclusive relationship, or does he want to just date? And, if a guy says to you, I'm not really looking for a relationship, believe him.
hmm.
Don't think you're going to convince him by having sex with him or just hanging out. This whole friends with benefit is just women shortchanging themselves. Now, if they decide that's what they want in life, they don't want an exclusive partner, that's okay. That's their choice. But women who do want an exclusive partner, you better know the rules. So, yeah. If you don't, that's a decision too.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody goes through different phases of life. After a breakup, you may choose, I want to be single for 6 months. That's perfectly fine. You made that choice. Don't try to convince someone else to be in that relationship. Just take care of yourself and be healthy and make wise choices in that time that you're single.
What's
Yeah.
your favorite piece of dating advice if you had to pick one?
Read my book. There's over 350 dating experts written in that book.
Mm,
It's not just my opinion, it's all based on research, but it's an easy read. It's like me talking to you. It's really easy to read and understand. A lot of people have read it in one weekend. They said they can't put it down because they're just so hungry for the information. And somebody put on Amazon, this is the guidebook for love. You don't need 300 books, you just need this one, because I go into so many different things, especially like knowing what to look for at section one. Who are the 19 people who are going to break your heart? Well, know the personality types, know the quirks. You better get this information down once you know it. Now, are you ready to date? Are you codependent? Are you love addicted? Well, we got to clean that up. Are you where you need to be? And there's another test on my website called the Relationship Readiness Quiz for singles. Or do you have any legal issues or any financial issues? You got to clean those up before you date
mm,
because people don't want your problems, right? So they work through all those things with me. We get all these 10 items to like at least 85, 90%. Now, when those are cleaned up, now they go out and date. And it's a whole different feeling of empowerment when they're going out to date. They know exactly what they want, what they don't want. They know their requirements to be happy. They are already successfully being single, meaning they have a great group of friends. They're fine being alone. They're not panicked or have anxiety like, oh my God, I'm getting old. I don't have anyone. They're cool with their single life. So if they're going to have someone in their life, that better be a bonus to their life, not a requirement, right? Like you desire someone, you don't need them to be happy.
hmm.
It's a big difference. They're satisfied with their work and career. If they're older, they've got the retirement set up, ready to go. Their family relationships are functional, meaning they're not fighting with their kids. If there's a toxic child in this mix or a teenager who hates everyone that mom dates, this is going to be a problem. You got to solve these issues. And then knowing the effective dating and relationship skills. Most people think they know how to do dating and relationships. I can tell you 98% people do not.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're making the repetitive mistakes and wondering why they can't find someone nice. So, It's a lot to be learned.
I love
Yeah,
that. It's just like clean up your side of the street first and then worry about finding somebody.
absolutely. Yeah.
Incredible. Well, Riana Milne, if people want to work with you, what's the best way to find you?
My website is my name, rianamilne.com. And while you're there, do the 4 free love tests. On the homepage is a free ebook, How to Have the Love You Deserve. Really important one that'll go into the childhood traumas and how they show up. There's my new chat bot. You can ask it a question and it will answer it as if
Cool.
it's me. It's very cool. Lots of blog articles. And then my podcast is Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne. Also on my website, you can get this first 60 pages of my 2 books, Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams. So help yourself to all those free gifts.
Amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I really learned a lot.
I'm glad. Thanks for having me. And I hope your audience will not settle and they go out and start creating the life that they desire and then having the love that they deserve.
Me too. Well, thank you for doing the show and thank you everybody for listening. Bye.